Hi, it's Barbara here from the Hinwood Institute. Unfortunately, I can't be there in person today to introduce you to Cecilia. You are in such good hands. I am so excited to be able to watch this recording. What Cecilia is going to share with you today is such a profound supplement to the knowledge we share at the Hinwood Institute, and she brings to this training an absolute wealth of knowledge in this area of professionalism, communication, resilience. You are in for such a treat. I can't wait to watch this. I hope you have an amazing day, and I look forward to hearing from all of you on how you've been able to implement this amazing knowledge.
Okay, so that was Barb, and I'm very excited to be collaborating with the Hinwood Institute. And when Barb and I were brainstorming the kind of master classes that we wanted to present to her clients and my clients, I think resilience, that is what I have found to be in today's workplace a superpower. And I know this is a mouthful. High performance through building resilience, personality awareness, and psychological safety. There's a lot there. But what I'm hoping to achieve with our masterclass today is that we're going to use personality awareness as a foundation. And where building resilience is going to be a little different is that we're going to focus on how it differs for each personality profile, how you are triggered differently based on your primary energy, your primary archetype, and how you expect psychological safety in different terms. So that's our title for today. And for the next 90 minutes, I'm going to be talking through a lot of tools. Honestly, I could probably talk about this for days. And for those of you who know me well, you know I talk a lot. I'm going to try to curb myself and not get too excited. I'm going to share with you some of the research and some of the interesting findings around these topics. And then there'll be future opportunities. I'm going to be sharing a lot of tools. And if I don't cover everything, that's okay as well. You can always reach out to me and we can schedule some quality time, some one-on-one to talk a little bit more about a particular topic. But I just want you to know that resilience is really important, not just for today's world, for what's happening around us. Resilience is going to be it is already a superpower. It's just going to help you get through so much more and handle so much more of what's going on. And I hope that some of these tools you will feel inspired to share with your loved ones, because even though they're for you to take away and also for you to share with people at work, they will also make a difference for those you care about the most. So with that, I'm just going to officially welcome you. And no, I don't know if there are any Australians here, because this is Barbara's audience. Her clients are mostly from Australia. And does anyone know what animal this is? Does anyone know or make a guess? No, nobody knows. So this is a quokka, Quokka. It is my favorite animal at the moment. I've not met a quokka in person, but I only learned about the quokka's existence through a friend of mine who lives in Perth. And they are native to Western Australia. So I'm very excited about one day making a trip over and to visit my friend again. And the quokka is known as the happiest animal on earth. So look at that. So with that, this is the spirit I wish to start our masterclass with, the smile of a quokka. And you received in your confirmation email a link to get your free Luminous Splash. I don't know if you were able to do that. Karina, did you get yours? Karina? Nope. Okay.
Yes,
If you
but I
didn't,
wasn't able to do it. It didn't work for some reason.
no worries.
Some
Don't worry. I can
glitch.
arrange with you separately to get yours. Amy has hers. She has the detailed Luminous Spark portrait. And Brian, were you able to get yours? If you didn't, don't worry, because you're all very familiar with these personality types anyway, so it will be pretty self-explanatory for you. But I would love to share with you how exciting this tool is, especially when you're able to compare with others. But that aside, I'm going to jump into our topic, which is about high performance. So in a moment, so this is a Slido. And if you have your phone out, some of you are familiar with Slido. If not, you just scan the QR code. And then after you scan the code, just click the link. And when you go to the link, it will show you what attributes to your high performance. So I'm going to ask you to share what you need for high performance in the workplace. It could be a single word or it could be a phrase. Just type it in and then just click send response. You could type in as many as you want, because the more of the same, the more will show up. In fact, we are now co-creating a word cloud. Yes. So trust is definitely important for me. And if I type that in, trust will get bigger. So don't hesitate. If you see something that calls to you, then you can repeat it. So please go ahead, type in a few more. You don't have to just type in one. You can enter as many as you like. And then just click add response to enter another one. Thank you. Thank you. Trust seems to be a big one. Okay, I'll let you keep going and we'll wait another 30 seconds. Okay, thank you. Thank you. So if you look at this, trust is front and center. It seems to be the big one. And then there are different characteristics here: enthusiasm, fellowship, passion, honesty, sense of humor, competency, building relationships, meaning. That's a good one. Goals and positive attitude. Really interesting. So this is what you have said attributes to your high performance. I'm going to do as much as I can in the coming 80 minutes to cover this so that you can access your own personal formula to your high performance, and hopefully spread that to some of your coworkers, the people that you work with. Trust is an interesting one. We will touch upon that today. And I worked with Brian quite a number of years ago, and we focused an entire day on building trust. And it was one of the toughest leadership competencies to get across. But somehow we managed, and we put a lot of people through it. So it is one of my favorite topics. It's soft, it's underneath the surface, but is so important for high performance. So we will touch upon that today based on the content on psychological safety. So here are some of our outcomes today. We're going to look at your strengths and how they boost your performance. We're going to look at different personality types. I'm talking to a group of experts here, so you know this stuff. I'm not going to tell you something you don't already know. Just going to show you another flavor, another shade, how to look at personality differences. And then we're going to look at your personal resilience strategies, how to build upon it. You already have a resilience strategy. How are we going to use the knowledge of your personality style to build upon that? And then we're going to touch upon a little bit on psychological safety. It's another one of my favorite topics. I could really honestly talk about that for days, but I have a little bit of content and it's going to be aligned and mapped to personality types. So that's going to be really interesting. And then we're going to share with you a communication toolkit based on the 4 primary colors and how you can use it to enhance communication, all provided by Lumina Learning, an organization that I'm partnering with. But right now, I really want to just acknowledge the Hinwood Institute and to give you a very brief background about our collaboration. You can see here, Drs. Judy and John Hinwood, they started the Stress Management Institute as a second business after a very successful 30-year practice and in primary health practitioners. And Dr. John Heywood passed away in 2020, and he and Judy, they developed this incredible body of work, starting with stress management, emotional resilience, that they started years ago before people started studying it and incorporating it in the workplace. So they lovingly handed this body of work to Michael Massey and Barbara Clifford. And Michael and Barb joined forces to bring their content to the corporate environment. And I've known Michael Massey for many years, and I've actually known Barb for a long time. So it was actually quite serendipity that in January of this year, we decided to collaborate. We decided to work together. It seems that our values are very aligned, and the work that they do is like in such rich complement to all the things that I'm passionate about. So I feel very blessed that I get to continue doing the work I love and to add on to that resilience, which is something I'm really excited about right now, and also stress management. I think Amy knows a little bit about all my side work on how to manage stress. So it feels like it's a really good combination for me to deliver their work. So just very quickly, their model, the whole U, is the resilient leader. Today, we're going to be talking about resilience, a little bit about leadership and stress management. Barb is the expert on time management. She has incredible tools, and she is truly the expert in this area. She's quite booked out in advance for one of her personal coaching sessions. And I would say that I bring leadership, communication skills, and then Michael Massey is the one on executive well-being. And the Hinwood Institute's model is we bring people who come to us are on the left-hand side, overwhelmed, overworked. They're going through an emotional roller coaster. They're feeling loss. They're neglecting their needs. They're off course. And then our solutions help bring them to a place of center through the different resources, the different courses and workshops. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. I just want to briefly just introduce you to the Hinwood Institute. But today I want to talk about personality profiles. And I'm going to start with the basics. And all of you here are familiar with the main 4 colors. And if not, I'll talk about them very briefly. And I'm not going into personality assessments here. If you're familiar with DISC, or Amy is a practitioner, so I don't need to tell you, but I just want to start with the basic 4 colors. And for us to understand what are the strengths of each of the primary colors, and then what are the stress triggers. So if you look at conscientious blue, it's more measured, cautious, evidence-based, and prefers facts and evidence. Likely to be introverted and to take their time before speaking out loud, and typically comfortable with working independently, and are often self-reliant. So I'll let you have just a check-in to see if this resonates with you. If it does, maybe just give yourself a check. The empowering green is more collaborative, empathetic, a really good listener, seeks trust and harmony, and tends to be in touch with their feelings and are really good at deep, meaningful one-on-one conversations with others. They're able to handle conflict diplomatically, and they often negotiate through listening. They're great listeners. Next, we have inspiring yellow. Quite animated. You can tell who's yellow by their body language. You can tell a lot by their facial expressions, optimistic, imaginative, sociable, and they're easy to mix and mingle in large groups. They're not usually shy, and they tend to be conceptual, abstract thinkers. They enjoy conversations with a lot of theory and hypothetical situations. And last, we have commanding red. Efficient, direct, purposeful, logical, and prefers to drive results. And commanding red is usually to the point, time efficient. They focus on the task ahead of relationship issues. Their motto tends to be business first. They can come across as very direct and upfront, very comfortable in competitive situations, and will be happy to take an assertive stance in the face of conflict. Now, which is your dominant color? We're not putting you in a box because that's not who you are. You are not just one of four, but there is a dominant color that you prefer to operate from or to reside in. And at Lumina, we have these color blocks, and we say that in any given situation, our order of colors and how we use the colors may change. So I'm usually yellow, green, red, blue. That's my normal state. But when I'm coaching, I switch. I switch probably to green, red, yellow, blue. The consistency is blue is always on the bottom. We're not categorizing you, putting you into a color, but there is a primary one that you feel more comfortable in. So if I could get you to just put in the chat, and if you do the Lumina profile, it will actually tell you what your percentages are. And if you could just put in the chat, I just want to see what you think your primary colors are. And I need to stop share so I can see. Okay, let's see. Blue for Brian. Okay. Interesting. Dame is blue. Okay, you resonate with the blue. Thank you. Carolina is yellow. Okay, yes, I can see that. Green and red for Amy. Thank you. Okay. And let's see. Hi, Steve. Nice to meet you. Blue, green for Steve. It's great. Steve or Stephen. All right, let us continue because we have more to share. That's just getting us started. Right. From 4 colors, according to Lumina, we move into 8 aspects. And I know some of you here are very familiar, not just with Lumina, but with Myers-Briggs. And there's so many assessment tools out there that follow very similar aspects or personality areas. But you'll see in this is a quadrant. And from 4, we stretch out to 8. Now I'm going to quickly talk you through. And again, this is not putting you into one area, but there are different aspects that you feel more drawn to, depending on the task that you're working on, depending on the role that you are playing. So quickly, I'm going to talk about introverted and extroverted. Introversion, things before speaking, more quiet, thoughtful, measured. A good poker face, meaning they never really show their emotions on their face. And we have extroverted, thinks out loud, sociable, talkative, animated, demonstrative, persuasive, and tends to take charge in groups. So you can be introverted and you can be extroverted. And that's what I love about the Lumina assessment. They measure you on each aspect entirely. So you could be 80% introverted and also 80% extroverted, depending on the situation. It's not that if you're extroverted, then you're not introverted. It really depends on what you're doing, where you are, at what stage in life. So we can experience the full spectrum. But another way to tell if you're introverted or extroverted, someone who's extroverted really gets their energy from being around people. They get animated, they are energized. But someone who is introverted, they can equally be comfortable in a crowd, but at a certain point, it might be too much and they will need to pull away to recharge. They usually stick with a small group of friends and they really need that solo time to recharge. So have a think about which one you think you are more of. You could be both, but there's one that probably you resonate more with. Introversion or extroversion? And I like to just talk a little bit about the tasks, because this is about high performance. So there are certain job tasks, certain roles that the introverted aspect would be more helpful when the role requires a lot of data analysis, where the job requires a lot of careful details in overseeing and looking through to ensure that there are no errors. Whereas the extroversion aspect, it's really necessary, or it's very helpful when you're trying to mobilize a team, when you're trying to get things launched, when there is change required, and that extroversion energy is very useful in boosting energy and morale. So have a think about how that helps you, how it helps you and helps your team. And then we have the next two aspects. If you'll see, inspiration driven is up top, discipline driven is on the bottom. Inspiration driven is really about having an informal approach, allowing things to unfold and allowing spontaneity and inspiration to come through, and not really being fixed, because this is where creativity, where ideas come through. And then you have discipline driven, which is more on the ground. It requires structure, having more focus and reliability. Of course, we need structure to get results, and there's process involved. And the discipline driven aspect tends to be more organized. So if you think about the task or what is involved in the workplace, in inspiration driven territory, that's where if you need blue sky thinking or spontaneity, or we're kind of stuck in a rut, we need to shake things up, we need to have something new to be to come forth, then the inspiration driven aspect is very useful. And then for the discipline driven, the reliability processes, of course, discipline driven provides a structure, timelines that is necessary to manage a project, to get things done. So you see sometimes there can be a push and pull, but both aspects are very valuable. And if you're not sure which one you're more likely to be, I'm going to ask you to take a look at these two pictures. So if you're packing for a trip, which suitcase looks like yours? Is it very neat and organized? Are you the type that packs 3 weeks in advance and everything is labeled and organized? Or are you like on the right-hand side, just throw it together on the day of your trip? It's a little fun dig at inspiration-driven or discipline-driven. Those who are inspiration-driven really run with passion. They trust their instincts and they like to go with their gut feeling. Whereas someone who's discipline-driven, you say gut feeling, they kind of shrink and they go, ick. They really like things to be structured and to be predictable. So the next two, we have down to earth and big picture thinking. Down to earth, they are grounded in evidence. They are practical. They want to just look at the facts, and they want the data to move forward. They value function over elegant design. And if you look here, this one is interesting, inherently cautious. Whereas the down-to-earth aspect is they want to see the vision. They're always pushing the envelope. They want ideas. They're inherently radical, and they value elegant design over functionality. Big picture thinking, great energy, great aspect if they're leading a change management program. If the organization is pushing for change, put a bunch of big picture thinking people into the room. They will be the ones that will think outside of the box, and they are not afraid to push the envelope. Whereas the down to earth, they are perfect counterparts to big picture thinking. They will tell you what is not practical. They will tell you what are ways to improve what is already working. So big picture thinking, always looking for something underneath the surface. They're looking for something different, and they're naturally contemplative by nature and often innovative. Whereas down to earth people are conscious of the realities of the world. They work towards realistic goals and avoid overcommitting themselves. So I'm going to show you a couple of images again. And I think all of you know what this is. This is a brush. It's a cleaning brush. And to be specific, it's a toilet brush. And you can probably get one of these for a couple of dollars at the dollar store. And it serves a purpose. Whereas big picture thinking, they might be more inclined to purchase this one, which is $200 because it's designer and it's so much more appealing visually. I'm making a joke here, but just wanted to show you the difference between big picture thinking, what you are drawn to. So have a think about which one you connect with more, big picture thinking or down to earth. The last two aspects, people focus and outcome focus. People focus, diplomatic, seeks harmony. They are subjective. It is personal for them. And they're great at supporting others and great at empathy. Whereas outcome focus, they don't mince their words. They are objective. They get things done. They use logic and they use reasoning. People focus are ideal. Now, if you think about it in the workplace, they are ideal for diffusing conflict, facilitating meetings where all voices can be heard. And I find that the people focus aspect is totally underrated in the workplace. Outcome focus tends to take more of the attention just because they are so much more forward. And outcome focus is ideal for situations where action is needed or quick decisions need to be made. But there's always the people aspect. In teams, in work, it's made up of people. So the people focus aspect is really important in the day-to-day, checking in. We'll talk a little bit more about that when it comes to emotional resilience. So someone who is people focused concentrates on the people around them, and they're sensitive to others' needs. They do their utmost to maintain harmony within any group or team. Outcome focus is often very goal-oriented. We definitely need that energy. We are looking at striking a balance. So I'm just going to stop here. I talked a lot and I want to just check to see which aspect are you. And if you did the Lumina splash, it will show you, but I'm curious as to which aspect. And please pop in the chat or unmute yourself. Which are your top 3? I can pause the I'll let Stevie, and then I'm just going to continue sharing and I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint. So I'm going to talk very briefly about the strengths of the 4 colors. So remember the 4 colors that you shared. The conscientious blue, great at structure, methodical, enjoys working with data, information, known for attention to detail and to fulfill commitments. Brian, you're such a star. You know, these are your strengths. And then for empowering green, great listener, effective in one-to-one situations, known for calm demeanor and being a voice of reason. Amy and I, when we work together, we have a coworker who just embodies this, and we love her for it. She's just always someone that we go to because she is exactly that. For her voice of reason and her calm demeanor. Yellow, which is me, I'm kind of off the chart yellow, galvanizes energy. I build relationships and just always full of energy. I bring energy to the room. And then the red tends to step forward, takes the initiative, driven to achieve results, and prefers to get things done quickly and efficiently. Great energy. Sometimes we need more red in our lives. So what happens though when we're triggered by stress? Because it's great, it's wonderful when you are in your strength. You know yourself, right? When you're in your power, you can get things done. You can demonstrate all the strengths of your primary color. But when triggered by stress, something else happens. Conscientious blue can be overly concerned about commitments. They may get overwhelmed, lost in details. So when someone has a lot of blue energy, they fall into the habit of overanalyzing, collecting data. They get into analysis paralysis, and they can actually grow distant. And it may be hard for them to engage because their thoughts are ruminating over the data. And they can be skeptical of new ideas. And because they're stuck in analysis, they will appear indecisive. I don't know if this resonates with you. It's not that it's a weakness, okay, for the blues out there. It's because you're triggered. There's stress. There's something to work through. And then for empowering green, they get emotionally stretched. They get obsessed with consensus. And if someone with high green energy, if they're under pressure, they might just become very quiet. They'll close up and they may not speak up in a group. So another indication is they might get anxious and passive if they're in middle of conflict. And again, we said green is amazing with managing conflict, but when stressed, no, they will shut down. Inspiring yellow, they can get lost and disorganized. They get impulsive and they might say things before they actually think things through. And the yellow energy, when they're under stress, they can seem very distracted and they get very consumed with busyness. They're unable to concentrate. So while under pressure, they may appear impulsive, disorganized, and use generalizations like everything is a mess, everybody is an idiot. You know, those generalizations are not very intelligent. And then commanding red, when under stress, can upset others with their directness. They may be argumentative and dominant. And they are great when in their strength, they're decisive, but when they're under pressure, they can be overbearing and be seen as over-controlling. So their direct approach becomes confrontational and their competitive nature leads them into conflict. So what we're getting at is you have your strengths, and instead of trying to force what you think is a weakness, what we recommend is that you regulate your stress instead. If you learn how to regulate, and I know you do, you all have your regulation strategies, but it's helpful to learn of some new ones to stack on what is already working for you. And this is where the emotional resilience comes in. This is the part that I'm really excited about sharing. So we are constantly talking about how to change someone's behavior, how to force them to be more efficient in their weakness. But instead, we're saying not even focus on your strength, just regulate your stress. And this is where the Hinwood Institute really shines, where they really have an incredible body of work on stress management. And wouldn't it be great to make stress your friend? And it's actually, stress is a biological response to danger. It's designed to keep us alive. And our autonomic nervous system is working 24/7 to keep us alive. Our nervous system monitors our vital bodily functions like our breathing and heart rate, and it's constantly scanning the environment during our waking hours for danger. It's just so that if there is a threat, it mobilizes our body to respond, and it's just so miraculous, the human body, what we're able to do. And it dispenses and it releases just the right amount of hormones in order to mobilize you to run for your life, to fight, and also to freeze, to just completely disengage. So while our modern world is no longer physically threatening as it was thousands of years ago when we lived in the wild, our bodies are still responding physiologically to perceive threats in the same way. So what are some of the threats that you experience today? It could be an email, and a really abrupt email from a client. It could be the rush hour traffic. It could be the person who cut you off. It could be something else that happened that you're thinking it hasn't happened yet, but you're experiencing over and over again in your head. It could be the politics. It could be so many things that are going on in our world. But we're going to talk about how to use that stress in our favor, because stress, when recognized for what it is, it can be your friend, because it can give you a little extra boost of energy. It will give you that extra sharp focus for things like giving a presentation or meeting a deadline, or you're working up the courage to ask someone out on a date. So these are times when we can use stress to our advantage. But I myself, this is my experience, what I never learned was how to release it, how to let it go when the use of it is over. The event is over, but I'm still carrying the stress. How do you release and modulate the stress? And that's what we're going to talk a little bit about here. So Dr. Hinwood said that if you can change your beliefs around stress and you take the necessary action, you can move from a state of sickness to a state of wellness. And he offers so many tools around this, and I would love to share more with you if you are interested. And he said that you can create your outcomes moment to moment, and he created a lot of tools. So we have these immediate resources. You could book some time with Barb to reduce the time pressure. And Dr. John Hinwood has a book called Expect a Miracle. You can download that for free. And there are lots of tools. You can also take the stress test. But I want to find out from you. You're the expert. You're the one who has managed your stress for most of your life. How do you de-stress? Now, I know that what I'm going to share with you are the basics, and you don't need me to tell you what the basics are. I'm just curious about what are some of the things that you are doing? What are some of the strategies so that we can build upon them? You know, a really easy one is exercise, meditation, eating a good diet, closeness. There's so much stress regulation in just being in close physical contact with a loved one or a pet, and then good rest. Now, I've been studying this for a while. In fact, I'm especially passionate about this topic. And I recently listened to a webinar by Dr. Jody Carrington, and she talked about, like, what are some things you need to stop doing? And I'm not sure if this is you. If you are, maybe you would consider stop doing, which is watching crime dramas on your phone, and especially before bed. She said that is the worst thing to do, like binging on Netflix or something. That's what she admitted to. She said when you do that, your brain is actually receiving all that violence and all the stress from watching that program, and your mind cannot tell the difference whether it's happening or not. Even though it's entertainment and we're watching it through a screen, it's activating the same stress hormones. And then she said, and then you turn it off and you go to sleep, but all that is still going on in your brain. So something like that, I never knew. And it's just a matter of sometimes just stopping some of the things that are creating stress. For me personally, and I don't recommend this for everybody, for me, I do not watch the news. I shut it off. I don't read the news, because that is very, very stress inducing for me. So I'm going to give you a very simple tool, and this one is there's a lot of research behind it, and this is a simple tool that everybody could use at any time if you want to de-stress in that moment. You do this 2 or 3 times, and you already feel a change in your physiology. And it's called the physiological sigh. I don't know if anyone has heard of it. The physiological sigh. Very straightforward. All you need to do is take a deep inhale, and then at the top of the inhale, take a little bit more, and then let it all out in one big sigh. So what is happening here is you are intaking, which is increasing your heart rate, but then the exhale releases the carbon dioxide and slows down the heart rate. So we can do this together. It's like this. And then take one more sip, and then and it's so easy to teach this to kids so that they can calm their nervous system. Now, there are so many other tools. I've been studying polyvagal theory for the last year, and just so many magical tools to calm the nervous system and to somatically de-stress. And sometimes just shaking it off really helps. So I will get to more tools, but the physiological side is a very simple one. And to regulate your stress for each of the 4 colors, there's a slightly different strategy. So for conscientious blue, they really just need some space. They need to step out, have some alone time. If that's possible, it's great. Give that to blue. For empowering green, they crave reassurance. They really need that connection. They really need to go and talk to somebody. That will help them regulate. And yellow, they need to move. They need to go out, need to walk, maybe put on some music and move their body a little bit. For commanding red, they need to see some order. They need to see something in action, because when there is chaos, they want to create order. That will help them. And I'm not saying that this is the only strategy, but just be aware. And also for your children, do you notice that not one size fits all for your children? What is their primary color? What do they need? Ultimately, though, we can all use physical contact. We can all use connection. Social connection is a primary de-stressor, but for blue, in that heightened level of stress, that may not work. So it's being able to read what the aspect or the colors need. And this is a really good one. This is called bilateral movement. And it's just a really simple tapping on both sides of the body, left and right. And that can also soothe. We call this self-regulation. And then this is another one that I learned. It's called self-havening. It's a really simple one. And, in the workplace, if we had more focus on helping people regulate versus changing behaviors, it could completely change how we interact with each other. Because when there is poor performance in the workplace, there is a tendency to point out what is the poor behavior, what needs to change, and what are the ways to overcome the weaknesses. But sometimes it could be just helping that person regulate, understanding what is triggering the stress and listening. And I feel, and I don't know if Amy will agree with me, I feel like we could definitely use empowering green, like an in-house coach to just listen and to help people regulate. The cost of that is far from all the price you have to pay down the road when there's burnout, when people are leaving jobs, when they cannot cope anymore, when they're at the edge of break point. So this is all preventative. If we can help people regulate, it will make such a difference. Not just and you could do this at home as well, but it would make such an impact in the workplace. So what's a good starting point is just be curious about their stress triggers. If somebody is behaving rudely, if they're not performing, if they're showing up late, be curious. What are the triggers? What is going on that's causing this stress? We cannot change their events that are going on in their lives, but we can help them regulate. And when someone is regulated, they are in their power. So, we have all these tools called self-management, but I find that now there are so many of these de-stressor tools that we could use. I want to show you one more, and this one is called Flip the Lid. I don't know if you're familiar with Flip the Lid. It's a very simple way for us to understand how we get activated. So if you look at a fist, and if you look at my thumb, it's underneath my fingers, And this is what Dr. Dan Siegel calls the brain stem. So this is the brain stem. This is your nervous system. And this, your fingers here, this is your prefrontal cortex. So this is when you are resourced. You're able to use your prefrontal cortex. You're able to make decisions. You're able to do your work. You're performing. This is in your strength. But when you're activated, your amygdala takes charge. Your amygdala is the ancient brain. The amygdala is the one that is in survival mode. So survival mode is fight, flight, or freeze. And people can't get much done when they are triggered by their amygdala. Someone yelling at them at work will trigger their amygdala. A customer who is extremely rude will trigger this. They're going into a presentation and somebody rolls their eyes. This will trigger their amygdala. So what we want to do is have our regulation strategy so that we get back to our calm state, which allows our prefrontal cortex. So if someone did roll their eyes, what can you do? How can you calm yourself? Step out for a moment to get back to your state of strength. So here are some ways that you could support the 4 colors. For conscientious blue, like I said, give them some space and give them some data. Do not rush them. For empowering green, listen to them. If they're telling you, hey, I'm a little stressed out, make sure you pull them aside, show your concern, ask open questions, and just connect with them. Just be a listener. And, in our workplace, we're always so darn busy. But this could make such a difference in this person's life. Just 5 minutes. Say, I've got a deadline to meet, but you know what? I have 5 minutes. Let's do this. You have my full attention for 5 minutes. And you could really, truly help this person. For inspiring yellow, just let them talk it through. I've been there. I'm yellow, meaning I just sometimes just gotta talk and then get it off my chest. And give them some encouragement. Show some optimism and show your support. These don't take up a lot of time, but with the right skills and the right sensory skills, this can make a huge difference. And then commanding red, just put them at the helm, meaning let them do it. Say, okay, what can we do to get things moving? Demonstrate action and keep them updated. So it's not exclusive to this, but again, what I'm sharing here is there are different strategies for different colors. And if we learn to do this, and if we ourselves are in a workplace where people don't have the empathy, they don't have the skills, then you can ask for it. You can say, I need to just come in and talk it through. I need to, and you can assert yourself. And we'll talk a little bit about that with psychological safety. You owe it to yourself to express and communicate what you need and what your boundaries are. So just going to pause for a moment here. I'm going to look at the chat because I can't see the chat when I'm in display mode. So just quickly check. Oh, okay. Meditation, sleep, fasting, walk in nature, no indulgence in media. Yes, that's my go-to. And then Brian, you said, this is powerful. I've been using it for a while. Which one are you referring to? And then share the screen. Okay. All right. We're going to talk about resilience. And this is the famous Joshua tree, known for its resilience. And I can see Amy smiling. Have you been to Joshua Tree, Amy? You have. Okay. I went there for the first time last December. Oh, I loved every minute of it. And the Joshua Tree symbolizes resilience because look at it. Look at how beautiful it is. It's native to a certain part in the desert in California, and it grows when under the harshest conditions. It's also very spiritual. So what is emotional resilience? And here's the definition of emotional resilience. I'll let you read that. I don't need to read it for you. You can read. There's so much here. if you're able to adapt and bounce back, you are above so many people who get crushed by adversity. And I don't know about you, my life is generally pretty good, pretty safe, but there's a lot of uncertainty out there. And I don't want to buy into the challenges of what's going on in the world, but I also want to be prepared. I know that building my resilience is going to put me ahead. And it's really going to serve me. I've really learned about wellness, performance, about how we relate to each other, the quality of our relationships. So much of it is down to emotional resilience. And these days, I've become a little bit of a nerd following a doctor called Mark Brackman. And if you look up his work, it's he wrote a book called Permission to Feel, and he talks so much about emotional intelligence. And I know that we're familiar with emotional intelligence, but this now more than ever, it is so important in the workplace and for us to have higher EQ. Intelligence, ability to work long hours, that is not what's going to get us through. It's really our emotional resilience and our emotional intelligence. So I'm going to share with you very quickly the 7 common traits of emotional resilience. And here is a woman who really, truly embodies resilience. And for those of you who don't know, she's Australian Turia Pitt, who suffered burns 65% of her body, and she was told she would never walk again. And she overcame that, and overcoming 200 operations, and became an Ironman athlete. And she's a best-selling author, motivational speaker, and she went on to be the mother of 2 children. It is incredible. In her quote, she says that it's through testing ourselves. And what I love is we're not born with resilience. It's not a genetic trait. It's actually something that is learned. So what are the ways that we can learn resilience? Here are the 7 common traits as per the Hinwood Institute. First one is optimism. I think we talked about optimism already in the 4 colors and the 8 aspects. So the aspects that are more prone to optimism would be extroversion and also big picture thinking. But it's not that the other aspects do not have optimism. It's something that can be learned. And we have lots of tools to help you boost this particular trait. This one I really like is perspective. And in Mark Brackman's research, he said that those who are able to take a different perspective, of course, this comes with regulation. You regulate, okay? You can't be in panic mode and have a different perspective. Get out of panic mode. And once you're out, regulated, he says you can use a number of tools and techniques. One of them is, imagine that you're in a hot air balloon. Pull yourself out. Now you're able to have a different perspective. Another one is 5 years from now. How would you look back at this situation? That's perspective. Another great one that I really like is, okay, you're really hard on yourself right now, but if this was your best friend, what would you tell them? And that's another way of taking perspective. So this one is easy, and I've got a ton of these tools. Love to share more with you. Perseverance, I know that this is kind of obvious. We all know that we need to push through. And Angela Duckworth in her book Grit really identifies this as what separates people who accomplish, who are successful, and those who fall behind. Perseverance, I know that it's something that is celebrated in our world, but if you're not regulated, if you're not in a space where you feel strength, perseverance can be very painful. So again, I'm going to go back to that emotional regulation is really important, which brings us to emotional awareness. So understanding our strengths, understanding where we get triggered, And through, in particular, as I mentioned, his book, Permission to Feel, and knowing where those emotions are coming from, and he has a model for this, but knowing how to regulate, knowing when we need to express them, and then knowing the safe spaces where we can express and then either change or allow the emotions to come through. So having more emotional awareness. This was huge for me because I never learned it growing up. This is so important. And we never really truly did the course on emotional intelligence, not in school, and definitely not in the workplace because it's not talked about. We want to let people know that this is welcome. All your emotions are welcome here. And it's not stuffing them aside. So control yourself, you hear that. You got to manage your emotions. No, because that is going to make me sick down the road if I don't fully understand them and express them. I can regulate and then I can get on with my work. But if I stuff them aside, they're still there. They're going to rear their ugly head at some point. So emotional awareness is key here. And I wish I learned a lot of this a lot earlier on because I am such a flood of emotions and I was made to feel that it was wrong. So I had to curb myself a lot. And now I'm at an age and I'm just so happy that I can talk about this. I don't need to regulate my passion and to curb my enthusiasm. So hope that you allow others to express their emotions. And one more thing about children and teenagers. We live in a modern world where we really ask them to stop feeling their emotions. We ask them to not feel their emotions. When they tell us they're upset, we say, no, that's you go to your room. We make emotions wrong. I'm not saying you, I'm saying in a lot of common practices. And emotions are so intense in children because their brains are not developed yet. Adults, we can still manage a little bit, but for children, they are everything. So this is where regulation is even more important. I'm not here to teach people how to parent, but I'm just thinking about these little children who are experiencing such intense emotions, and then we don't want to curb them. We want to let them experience them and to support them. Support is key, and as I said, for Empowering Green, they need the support more than the other colors. But we, as human beings, this is our primary need, to have physical contact, to be able to rely on social networks. So reaching out for help is a big one. Sense of humor, and last one is choice. So there you have it, the 7 common traits. I'm going to ask you to think about which are your top 3. Which one do you rely on the most? You can put it in the chat, or you could just unmute and share, because you have your resilience strategy now. This is your resilience strategy. These are the ones that you use more of. And then it would be great to share with your coworkers, to share with people that are close to you. What are your specific actions to build your emotional resilience, and then how you can add to it? So, anyone like to share what their top 3 are? I can check in the chat in a minute. Amy, would you mind sharing what your top 3 are? Which ones you use more of? You're going to put in chat. Okay, I'll read the chat in a minute. I'm going to go quickly to resilience.
Sorry, I couldn't unmute. My cat sat on my mouth, but I was writing. What was I writing? Emotional awareness, support, and perspective.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to recommend, when you have your top 3, that you talk to the people that you work closely with, and the people that are in your personal space, just share with them, this is how I get through challenges, this is what I use, and then have some brainstorm and let them give you feedback. This is how we're building our resilient strategies. Karina, you were going to say something? No? Okay. I'm going to move on because I'm just noticing time and I still have a little bit more to get through. So resilience is energy management. And this is also something I really get excited about, which is what Dr. Hinwick calls managing our energy. And whether it's spiritual energy, physical energy, brain, professional, or emotional energy, we are in control. We want to make sure that we are managing our energy reserves. So for example, if you wake up, you got a really good night's sleep, you have pretty good energy levels, you've already built up a block. You go and have for me, a wonderful cup of coffee, a delicious cup of coffee, and I get a hug from my honey. And then I look out and I see the beautiful mountains. I'm already topping up my energy and I'm able to face the day. If I go into rush hour traffic, if I have a meeting with somebody who is dismissive, that will take away my energy, I just need to make sure that I have enough energy reserves to deal with the things that come my way. If I know that I have a particularly challenging meeting coming up, I have a particularly challenging personality that I need to deal with, then I would build up my energy reserve. So how do you manage your energy? How do you practice self-care to ensure that you have what it takes and you're not depleted? So for the 8 aspects, there are some triggers as well in the workplace. I'll talk about them briefly, see if they apply to you. And again, this is not prescriptive, but just for you to be more aware that each aspect has different triggers. So for introversion, they get triggered by overstimulation. If you bombard them, if people are a little too pushy or demanding, and there's too much formality, or they're forced in the spotlight, this can be triggering. For those who tend to be more on the extroverted side of the aspect, then lack of freedom, boxing them in, routine, rules. People who are pessimistic, this could trigger them. And again, it's up to the individual to regulate. So the times that I was triggered, it's not that I am pointing at you. You're the one who's creating the rules. Rules are there for a reason. But if I regulate, I'm in a much better position to manage the bureaucracy and the rules. There are some things that you can't change, but what you can change is how you respond to it. So inspiration driven, they are triggered by chaos, routine, too much details, micromanaging, and then discipline driven, poor planning, disorder, rush decisions. So I did work with somebody who was high in discipline driven. And when she would come at me and say, I need that, I need this, it's because she's stressed. And understanding that, I know that what we need is to have that sense of order in order for her to be regulated. Down to earth, over optimism. So this is something that I've learned. Dealing with a down to earth aspect, if I'm too effusive, too optimistic, it will trigger them if they are stressed. Change for sake of change, not addressing their concerns, impracticality. And then big picture thinking, no encouragement, closed-mindedness, lack of development, ambiguous expectations, poor feedback. Last one, people focus. They are triggered by feeling that they're letting others down when there's conflict, when there's criticism, when they have to make unpopular decisions, not being liked. And then outcome focus, being overruled, stifled, lack of control, not being respected, lack of action. So I'm going to pause here for a moment and I'm going to ask you, because I don't know if these triggers resonate with you. If you have experienced these triggers, I certainly have. I'd like to ask you, what are your top strategies? How have you faced those triggers in the past? What did you do? I'm going to stop this so that I can see the chat. Okay. All right. Let's see. Perseverance, sense of humor, great. Brian, choice, perspective, support, excellent. Let me continue recording, and I'm going to share very quickly about psychological safety. And I'm sure you're all familiar with it. I wish I had more time. I'm just going to talk very briefly about it. And whether your workspace is psychologically safe, if you feel that or not, I'm going to be sharing some tools with you on what you can do and based on your primary color. But psychological safety is one of my passion projects. It's developed by, the term was originated from Amy Edmondson and her research on the characteristics of high-performing teams. So it is the belief that a group is safe for taking risks and trusting that they can be themselves or make mistakes and not risk their status or career, that they're accepted as they are and they are respected, that their voice matters. So I'm going to do another Slido here and just ask you to quickly scan the code and just type in what happens when people do not feel psychologically safe. So we'll just take a couple minutes. So just scan the code again, go to the website and type in as many as you feel. Yeah, no innovation. Yep, that's it. They second guess themselves. They withdraw. Yep. Apathy. They do not share ideas. Oh, fear starts corroding their mental well-being. They leave, yes. Couldn't care any less. Wow, sounds like a fun workplace, huh? Yeah, resentment. It does not sound like a lot of fun. And definitely, just this alone is a huge case for ensuring that there's psychological safety in the workplace. And there's a lot of talk about psychological safety these days, but how often do we really check in and to ensure that people do feel psychologically safe? Now, I know that some people may be in situations where they do not have a lot of control. A lot of it is down to the leadership, but you have control within your area of work and the people that you interact with. So, yeah, I'm going to share with you some of the research from Lumina Learning on what happens when people do not feel psychologically safe. A lot of bureaucracy, silos, high conflict. People are secretive and they don't collaborate. They cover up mistakes. This is the big one, because they don't feel safe. We hide mistakes, and then people don't take risks. We want to play it safe, and we repeat the mistakes. Lack of motivation. You already said this. Lack of creativity, low engagement. And again, I just want to emphasize that this is a huge case to spend time on this, and how great that we have tools. We have ways so that people do not need to ask sensitively. They can ask based on their personality, and we have the data to show. So Amy, for you can take this to the team leaders and say, we have the data. So let's talk, have a discussion around it, have a 1 hour meeting on what it means to be psychologically safe. So for Conscientious Blue, they want to feel that it's safe to be an expert. For Empowering Green, they want to feel that it's safe to share and collaborate. And for Yellow, to be inquisitive and that I can learn. And then for Red, that it's safe to challenge. This is so interesting. When I saw this research, I was quite taken aback. The Red, they just want to make sure it's okay because they're often told that they're too direct, they're too confrontational. So how do we create the setting? How do we create the ground rules so that they feel safe to be who they are? And for Conscientious Blue, very specific, I can contribute regardless of my role, whether I'm a leader or I'm an individual contributor or I'm the junior person, I can still contribute my expertise. And it's okay for me to point out the risks and problems. Probably they've been told you're too negative, but it's just, that's their way of expressing themselves. And then I can ask you to slow the pace down. I feel safe to ask detailed questions. So if you are Conscientious Blue, or you know of someone who is this color in your workspace, give them that reassurance. Or at the beginning of the meeting, I just want to make sure everyone knows that it's okay to ask us to slow the pace down, for the meeting facilitator to say that. If you are Conscientious Blue, it's okay for you to assert your needs, to express your boundaries to your coworkers. For Empowering Green, it's okay to share my feelings openly. My vulnerability is welcome. I can be helpful. It's okay for me to support other success. Imagine that at the beginning of a meeting or beginning of a project, I'm able to communicate this and let everyone know, this is my primary color. This is what it takes for me to feel safe. So there is a language around this. And then for Inspiring Yellow, I can ask stupid questions. I can be curious. My curiosity is going to be acknowledged or encouraged. And it's okay to suggest wacky ideas and that I feel safe to be creative and try new things. So this is powerful for leaders to take these statements on board. But again, I'll stress, it's up to you as well to express what your needs are. And lastly, for Commanding Red, it's okay to disagree. It's safe to speak my truth. I can question others' opinions, and it's safe for me to prioritize my needs. So I'm just conscious of time. I have a few more minutes to wrap up. I have 5 more minutes to wrap up. So I loaded a lot, and I'm surprised I got through most of it. And whatever I didn't cover, I definitely will have the space to talk about this more in depth with you. And I just want to make sure that you know about our resources. So I have, I'm running an upcoming workshop on the foundations of emotional resilience. We're going to talk through this in more depth. And you can find the details and we'll send you the follow-up emails. But for now, I just want to make sure that you know about the immediate resources, and you can get your own resilience scorecard here. So you can just write this down, resilientleader.scoreapp.com. And this is Barb. She's you answer 25 simple questions, and then you'll get your resilience scorecard. And then if you're interested in learning a little bit more about time management, you can book a session with Barb. She will give you a complimentary session. And Dame is going to pop this in the chat. You could book a time with her. And you could also book a 45-minute session with me on resilience. I'm happy to share more resilience strategies with you. And then at the Hinwood Institute website, there are tons of courses and programs. You just go to shop and there are lots of free courses on resilience and time management. So I hope you'll check out the website after this. And then lastly, I want to talk about our upcoming masterclasses and workshops. On May 6th, Barb is going to present on creating a miracle mindset. It's going to be around the same time. because it's in the morning Australia. So we're working internationally right now. Usually the workshops will be in around the evening Pacific time. And then, as I mentioned, Foundations of Emotional Resilience, it's a 4-hour workshop where we go take a little bit more of a deep dive. But creating a miracle mindset, I'm excited about that. So sign up for that. That one's free. The Foundations of Emotional Resilience costs a little bit of money, not too much, but check it out. And then I have like 1 minute left, so I'm going to finish up. And then here are some details to find us. And please check out our website. I know I covered a lot and I talked a lot, so I'm going to stop here. And I just want to see what final comments you have, and I'm going to end the recording.